You're right.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, come on.
Hi, I thought today I'd share with you a little story about my early life and how I was influenced by my mother very much in running my business and setting things up. So when I was a very small child, about let's say 5 or 6, and for a few years after that, my mother would buy sweets from the sweet shop or from Woolworths, and she'd buy like a pound of, which is half a kilo, of little Tom Thumb drops or Mojos, whatever they were, little small sweets. And she'd put these very carefully in our sideboard, which is a large cupboard you have in a living room. We did in the 60s anyway. And what she used to do to my sister, my mum, my sister and I, she would get these sweets out every Friday, and she would sell us the sweets at a small profit to herself. So she'd buy them in bulk, break them down, standard business practice, and sell them to us kids. Now I was probably 5 or 6 at the time. My sister is 3 3/4, nearly 4 years older than me, so she was a little bit older. And we would give our pocket money that she'd given us the day before on the Thursday to buy our sweets. Funny enough, we would buy these sweets, we'd buy them in a quarter, which is a quarter of a pound, or whatever we would buy them, an eighth. And we'd enjoy those sweets for the rest of the week, because you told us to be very careful, don't eat them all at once. I'm sure the parents do the same sort of thing about sweets with their kids, but I don't suppose many parents would sell their children their own sweets. That's what she did. So it's a good way of circulating the money. So we thought we was getting something, we thought we was buying something, but she'd also weigh them out on the weighing machine. And once my sister caught her with her finger on the scales, making the weight seem heavier than it really was. So taking this knowledge and this skill set of selling stuff, when I started school, secondary school in 1968, the first year when nothing really exciting happened, but in the second year, in 69, I started selling my sandwiches that my mum would make the day before, and there'd be all sorts of peanut butter, cheese, whatever they were, jam sometimes, just 4 slices of bread put together, cut in half, 4 sandwiches. Anyway, one day one of my friends says, "Oh, can I have one of your sandwiches?" I says, "Yeah." By the way, the reason I had sandwiches was because although we had school dinners at school, my mum refused to pay the school dinner money. She said, "It's too much, I'll give you sandwiches. It's cheaper," because we wasn't very wealthy at all. So she would make these sandwiches for me, lovingly made, carefully made, didn't cut the crust off, not that good, but she made these sandwiches. Then what happened was I would then take them to school, as I said before, and sell them. Now she didn't know I was selling them, in fact she had no idea. But 4 sandwiches, that wasn't enough. I'd sell them for 6pence each. Not a huge amount, but a 6pence is 2.5p, which is roughly about, I would say, 3 cents. Maybe a little bit more, a little bit less in American money. Just to give you an idea, my American friends, as to how this works out. So I'd sell the sandwiches, sell the 4, and then I'd take that money and spend half of it down the chip shop down the road. All makes sense, doesn't it now? But then, as time went on, I started eating 6 and 8 rounds of sandwiches. That's 8 slices of bread, cut in half instead of 4. Double the income, double the output. Those sandwiches didn't cost me money, but my mum would tell all her friends, "Martin doesn't eat a lot and he doesn't get any fatter." She had no idea for like 5 or 6 years that I was selling these wretched sandwiches. And I was the only kid I knew in my school who'd come to school go home from school with more money than went in. It's a great idea. I never ever told her. The only time I told anyone about this was at her funeral, and I explained what had happened. Everyone in the funeral was in hysterics, which is how we like to have funerals nowadays, I suppose. She never knew, unless she heard from her coffin, of course. But that's my story of how I was always doing selling and buying and selling things. In this case, didn't buy them, got them for free, sold them on. Bit mean, but I could never tell my mum because she'd be very angry. Cheerio. Hope you enjoyed that little story.